Hey bookworms, welcome back to the channel and welcome if you're new. I'm Sam and in today's video I'm going to be recommending historical fantasy books. Lately I started to realise that a lot of the historical fantasy books that I read I pretty much give 5 stars to. I've maybe gave the odd 4-star. So I just feel like that's my favourite sort of fantasy books are those ones. Now I love fantasy anyway, but I'm just really strict when it comes to giving 5 stars. And it wasn't until recently that I was like looking through all my 5-star fantasies that I realised a lot of them fall into the category of historical fantasy. So I thought that I would recommend some for you guys and you can check them out if you haven't already. But you guys also voted for this over on my community page as well. So we are doing it. We're going to just jump straight into the first one. That being The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is one of my favourite books of all time. I read this one about 2 years ago and then I had to go out and get this edition. I will link below the video where you can see inside this one and my review. It's non-spoilery just in case you haven't read it. If you haven't read this though, why? I know like a lot of people get a bit worried about the hype. I was definitely one of those books? I was one of those books, wow. I mean I was one of those people that I was really nervous about going into this because I thought I was going to be more on the spectrum of not liking it because it's kind of like a midway. Either people hate it or they love it, but I ended up absolutely loving this book. It's very much character driven, which normally I don't love that. I felt so much reading this, and if you do want to hear my full review, I would, like I said, we'll definitely link that below. In this book though, we are found a character called Addie who makes a deal with the gods after dark and she becomes immortal and can't die. However, it comes at a cost because everybody she meets forgets her. She can't leave her mark in the world and her life is very, very lonely, and we follow her journey from when this first happens all the way through to like the present day, which I think is like 2000 and something. And then one day she meets a guy called Henry who remembers her, and yeah, this book, it has a lot of the historical fiction because we are following it from the past and we have like I think stuff from World War II. We follow Addie through all these different places and different times and eras, and we follow her journey and how she's growing as a person, learning to live with this immortality and people forgetting her. And this book just makes you feel really lonely when you're reading from Addie's point of view because you really want like people to just remember her and you start to feel really invested in it. And I just remember feeling so much when I read this book. So if you have not picked this book up, you guys need to read it. Honestly, you guys won't be disappointed. It's such a great read. Next up is the only 4-star read that I have on this list, and that is my contrary Mary. God. If you guys like historic fiction and you're a fan of like Queen Mary of Scots and you like all that sort of stuff, you've watched the TV series on Netflix called Reign and you really enjoyed that, then you're probably going to enjoy this. So this is a fantasy take on historic fiction. We're following Queen Mary of Scots. We're also following Nostradamus and then I think his daughter. And pretty much everyone knows the story of Mary, where she ends up, you know, being beheaded. She doesn't have a very happy ending. It's a bit tragic. In this, the Mary Janes who write this book, I think they're called the Lady Janes actually. Yeah, the Lady Janes who do write this book decide to put a twist on it and give a bit more of a happy ending. They've done this with quite a few other books in their series, which I haven't read yet, which is why they're not being recommended yet. So in this book, we follow Mary like you do, you know, she's queen, she's marrying, what's her name? Frances, you've got Catherine de Demetri, you've got all the famous people from history, the people from the TV show, they're all in it, just in case you know you're not very knowledgeable on the history of it but you've seen the TV show. You get all of that and then you get a happy ending. Now what makes this a fantasy is because they added this fantasy take. So Mary has a bit of a secret, being she can transform into a mouse. That sounds really strange because when I first heard about that I was like, I'm sorry, what? But I picked it up just because I loved the TV show Reign, because I love history, and honestly it was so much fun. She's part of these people that can transform, so she's not the only one. Other people can transform into things as well, and it's a secret because obviously this isn't allowed. I think they're kind of like disgraced, and obviously if this secret gets out she could be killed for it. So she transforms into a mouse and at a point she's like going around a castle and she's spying as a mouse, and it's just a lot of fun as well. So I just felt like I'm not going to enjoy that, you know, because I'm so into history that I like it to be accurate, that I thought I just wasn't going to like the fact that there's some stuff being changed. But yeah, I was wrong. I really enjoyed this one. so much. The whole her being able to turn into a mouse was actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I can't wait to read all the other books in the series. But yeah, I do recommend it if you enjoy like history and stuff about Queen Mary Scots and all that stuff, royals, then definitely pick this up because it was a lot of fun. Next up we have Belladonna. This book I loved. Now, going into this one, I didn't know if I was going to. I just picked it up because it was on one of my most anticipated reads of the year at the time. And I don't know if this was last year or this year that I read it. But in this book, we're following this character. I don't know her name. But basically, as a baby, everybody around her dies after they drink something that is poisoned. Now, obviously, she's a baby, which means she's drinking her mother's milk, so she should technically die. When death comes to claim her, though, he can't take her. And as the book goes on, you learn that she's basically immortal, she can't die, and she starts to discover this. So she starts like trying to like eat these berries called Belladonna, so she'll die and then death will come and she can like ask them questions of what's going on. Everybody around her as well like has died, like all her relatives, they treat her quite mean, and then she gets sent to go and live with some last relatives that are alive in this big manor house. But she discovers that her cousin, I believe, is like dying, so she tries to solve the mystery of this because before that the mother died and it was really like suspicious. So with the help of like death, kind of, she starts to try and solve the mystery of like what happened and also try and save her cousin. So this is a mystery as well as a fantasy, but also there's some romance in this, and that's something that I really did love about this book, is the uniqueness of the romance, because her romance is actually with death, which is just interesting. There is a sequel coming out to this book this year called, I think, Foxglove, something like that. And with the way this book ended as well, I can't wait. This book as well, I just don't see it getting talked about enough. It's just so good. I feel like more people need to read this. I know like I've seen a few people read it and they didn't love it, but like you've got historic fiction, you've got fantasy, you've got mystery, like you've got romance with death. This is honestly perfect. Next up is a book that I talk about so much on this channel. I feel like you guys are probably going to roll your eyes, but I mean it fits in with the whole historical fantasy, and that is Only a Monster. I got a fairy loot edition. I actually bought it off eBay recently. The guy sold it to me pretty cheap, which I'm really happy about. So yeah, I have a fairy loot edition now. I'm so happy. This book is one of my favourite books as well. Like, I loved it. In this book, we're following this character who discovers that her family are monsters. They can travel in time by stealing the life of innocent. She ends up having to team up with her mortal enemy, like the rival family, because her love interest is the person who kind of hunts people like her. So it's like very messy, you know? She has to travel back in time because she needs to go and warn her grandmother, before she's even born, that is, that this massacre is going to happen and her whole family are going to be attacked. So she ends up traveling back in time to like the 70s or the 80s, and that's where like the historical part of this book comes in. But this book just has everything. Has like enemies to lovers, has the fancy aspect and time travel. Yeah, it's got so much to it. I absolutely love this book, and again, there's a sequel coming out this year. I cannot wait for, because the ending of this book was so good. Another thing in this book as well, actually, like all her family have like certain powers, like this ability, and she doesn't really know what her ability is until like very end of the book she discovers it. And I remember feeling a little bit disappointed by it, but then I was like, you know what, I feel like this is going to come into play in the second book a lot more. So yeah, if you like books with time travel, you like books that got that historical fantasy, you like enemies to lovers, you know, teaming up with the rival, then you're gonna love this book. Like I really wish I could reread this book for the first time again. So yeah, you guys need to go and pick this up. It's so good. Like if you haven't already though, guys, and the amount of times I said read it, like hello, come on. And then the last book on this list is actually a book I read about a week ago. This actually came with my fairy loot edition. Otherwise I probably would not have picked this book up. If it was this cover though, I would have, but the like original cover and stuff like that, it's just like a bit meh. Like it's nothing special, like no offense, but like it's not. Because if you look at this cover for Define the Rifles, excuse me, like look at this, it's absolutely stunning. But that isn't even the thing, the inside, like how gorgeous is that? This whole book is just gorgeous, if I'm being honest. So this is a historical fantasy book that's set in like a world war where these gods have awoken and now there's this war between the two gods. Our main character's brother is fighting the battle on the front line. In the very beginning of the book, she sees him off on the train. She wants to go with him, but he tells her to stay in school. Cut forward a few months and she's dropped out of school now. She's working at this newspaper company. She wants to be able to like write her own articles and get a promotion. She's fighting against her rival. How am I forgetting his name? Ronan Kit. So Ronan and Iris do not get along. They're both fighting for the same promotion, and eventually some stuff happens and Iris goes off to basically, I guess, like write on the front line to get like the story there. But the one thing that I absolutely loved about the book is the way the characters connect and how they write to each other. So they both got these typewriters and Iris is writing a letter to her brother. She's been writing letters to her brother, but she's not getting any response from him. Her grandma one day told her that her wardrobe was like magical. So she puts her letter into the wardrobe, thinking nothing of it, and then the next day she notices that it's disappeared and she gets a letter in return. But the person says he is not her brother. The person that the letters are going to is actually her enemy, Ronan Kit, who is writing this letter to her. So he's very much aware that he's writing to her, but Iris has no idea that she's writing to him. And it's this slow burn love story through letters that's absolutely incredible. And the romance that blossoms with these characters, I absolutely loved. And the way it was done, the way it was portrayed, the magical element of this, the way the author doesn't shy away from the gruesomeness and the truth of war. It's done really, really well. Like, it's not like overly gruesome or anything like that, but it's the truth and it's the reality of it that really gets you. But at the same time, this book is just absolutely stunning. I want to do a full review on this book because it's a book that took me by surprise. I didn't go into this book thinking that this was going to be a 5-star read and that I was going to fall madly in love with these characters and the magical element of it. But it is just amazing. And the way this book ended, I'm sorry, excuse me. The way this book ended had me literally tearing up. I need to read the next book in the series ASAP, and we've got to wait until next year. I'm not happy because I need to know what's happened. I need to know what happened to the characters. Yeah, not happy. I cannot believe how much I love the story, and I really recommend that you guys pick this book up. You will not be disappointed. It is so good. So yeah, that's all the historical fantasy books. My stomach is making noises. I have not ate yet and it's like 3 o'clock almost. So I need to get some food. Stop it. So my cat is trying to nibble my book, like, does he want to die? So that is all the historical fantasy books I have that I think that you guys will absolutely love. They're, like I said, they're all pretty much 5 stars for me, apart from the one that's a 4-star. So these are such great reads. I don't think you'd be disappointed. I'd love for you guys to read these and let me know what you think. And also comment below some historical fantasy books that you think I love. If I haven't mentioned them on this list, then I'll check them out. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and until next time, bye!